From Significant, this is Crack It in an Hour.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Crack It in an Hour. I almost messed that up. I'm Simon.
I'm Jesse.
And I'm Maria.
And today, for those of you who know, you know, it is 1 hour, one problem to crack it once a week. We've been playing with variations a little bit lately, which I really like. True. But we're going back to the old traditional thing. One of us has the problem, two have no idea what the problem is, and we have 1 hour to crack it. I have the problem, which I'm very excited to talk about, and I got a timer to start the clock right now.
Wow.
So we have 1 hour. Here we go. So I love this kind of problem. This is a bit of a throwback to the kind of problems I think I was bringing earlier on in the podcast, which is this isn't going to help the world specifically be a better place. This isn't even really a deeper kind of conversation. This is, how do we fix a business I see opportunity to fix business in? So,
oh boy,
what if I told you that there was an incredibly dangerous sport? Some might call it an extreme sport, but it's not perceived that way. It requires going flying up into the air. It requires literally suspending yourself in wind and having no idea of where you're going to go, and no motors, engines, or anything at all. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Is it kite surfing?
It is hot air balloons. Hot air balloons.
Wait.
Was not expecting
hot air balloons, guys.
I have a million questions already.
Yeah, good. As you should. So here's my take on hot air balloons. We think they are just this lovely little beautiful thing in the sky that you see floating up. What if they're misbranded? What if it's actually something more interesting than that? And we don't need to go the direction I'm talking about. But what I'm suggesting is, how do we make hot air balloons more popular? Because I think that they've been misunderstood. I can give you a few details, but I think we all agree hot air balloons in general, at best, are a fringe interest. They have never been a mainstream interest, right? I wouldn't even say they got to the point of bungee jumping, of let's say even like whale watching. I think I've gone whale watching 4 times. I've never been on a hot air balloon. It started in the 1700s. There was a moment in time in the 90s. There was a moment in time in the 90s where it was sort of there was this real extreme version of it. If you remember, Richard Branson crossed the Pacific Ocean in a hot air balloon, and the Atlantic Ocean. There's people who went the entire circumference of the Earth in 20 days. It's always there's kind of this adventure element to it. Now look, there are barriers to it. It's obviously quite expensive. And a hot air balloon costs about $100,000, but flights aren't that expensive. Flights are about somewhere between $200 and $500, depending on where you go. There's a lot of kind of things that make hot air balloons not accessible to everyone. You need to have a safe space to land them because you don't know where they're going. You need to have flat air. You need to have still air, which is why typically you happen at sunrise, is because once the sun comes out, it creates solar winds that make it more complicated and no one knows where you're going to land. So that's why you always see it happen in the morning. But generally speaking, I think hot air balloons are misunderstood. And if we reframe them, we could make them far, far, far more popular. And Jesse, I love your reaction to this, because this is exactly the kind of thing I love to do.
Jesse's excited.
Okay, first of all, just the definitive statement that hot air balloons are misunderstood is like the best sentence of 2026 as far as I'm concerned. Like, of all the things that are misunderstood out there in the world, like hot air balloons, man, they're getting a raw end of the deal.
They're getting bad rap.
It's interesting because you've called it a sport. And I never thought about it that way. I don't even know if there are specifically like competitions around it. But to me, it was always just like a romantic date, like a pretty aesthetic thing. I think about the festival out in Albuquerque, I think it is, that happens every year. I've always wanted to go to it.
That's the biggest one.
And like, to me, it's just, there's actually also one in is it in Cappadocia in Turkey? It's somewhere in Turkey.
Yes.
I think
Turkey's the biggest international. Albuquerque's the biggest North American.
And I'm really happy I know this about hot air balloons.
You know a surprising amount about hot air balloon events.
Listen, I'm realizing it as I'm saying it out loud. I've got some cultural references on this topic too. I swear I had no idea what the topic was going to be. But to me, it's like it's aesthetic, and that aesthetic has actually been amplified by sort of influencer culture, because when I think about that festival in Turkey, it's all just like highly posed aesthetic influencer photos on rooftops with the balloons in the background, but you called it a sport. And I don't know if it actually is or if that's the opportunity.
I probably was a little too, I was probably jumping the gun and introducing it by calling it a sport, because I shouldn't say people think of it as a sport. Is that a route to make it more popular? Potentially.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Could we build some rules around that? I think, to your point, the aesthetic thing, I think, is an interesting tension to me. And I don't know whether you lean into it or whether you walk away from it. And the reason for that is I think that, to your point, like wedding proposals, picnics in the basket, that's sort of become more of the cultural narrative around why you'd get a hot air balloon. And when you think about hot air balloons, to me, there's this like perception versus reality thing, which is like, perception from afar is like, look at this beautiful balloon floating in the sky. I've never been in a hot air balloon, but the idea of like a giant flame over my head and then being in this tiny little basket with 5,000 feet up in the air doesn't sound beautiful or scenic. It sounds terrifying. And so it's
horrible.
Like, I think there's an interesting tension there.
Yeah. And then not knowing where it's going to land.
Not knowing where it's going to land.
In the sky. I don't know where I'm going. There's fire over me. I've like always put Is it called ballooning? You said it's a sport.
I don't know. I don't know.
Is it called ballooning?
It's
like,
not
it
a sport.
Is now
for
it.
Yeah.
We'll call it ballooning. So I've just always put it with like jumping out of a plane. And I don't know if it's as dangerous as jumping out of a plane. I have no idea. But I've always put it with that. And maybe that's a misconception.
I think that's, and maybe I've been swayed by the sport thing, but I don't care, because I really do think it's an interesting opportunity and it's a lane we should explore. I didn't put it up there with jumping out of a plane, but I think you should. Like, I never thought about it as like as being the same as jumping out of the plane. I thought about it as just like, I don't know, like take a picnic and like get proposed to on a hot air balloon. Oh my god!
Yeah,
no,
I was
thank you.
Say you don't get any of the recognition as a badass for going on a hot air balloon that you do for jumping out of a plane. Like if someone's like, "No, I went skydiving," I was like, "No, you're crazy." If someone's like, "I went on a hot air balloon," I'm like, "Lame." And I think that's a misunderstanding.
Hot air balloons. I feel Listen, I'm feeling very passionate about this. Yeah, go ahead, Maria.
I think they're dangerous. I'd put it up there with a plane, but I do think there's opportunity in that. And like, I think jumping out of a plane is like it's kind of like a milestone moment. You don't attach like a balloon with a milestone moment in your life. Maybe getting engaged, right?
Exactly. I'm not saying it's not dangerous. I'm saying I think what Simon is saying, which is it's not getting the credit, the badass badging it deserves for how dangerous it is, because it's become so aesthetic and so like, okay, let's take a journey. I would like to, because turns out I know a lot about this topic. Let's discuss all the cultural references that have used hot air balloons. Wizard of Oz. That's like probably the most famous, right? The eccentric wizard himself, really not so much a wizard, but just an inventor, hot air balloon. So I think it's like, I'm like, okay, I do think has generally been used in like eccentric people more than
Yeah.
badass. Like, wasn't it Around the World in 80 Days or
80
that the
days.
book and
Yeah.
that was a hot air balloon, wasn't it? So he was sort of
Yeah.
like eccentric madman, like
Yeah.
I'm going to travel around the world in, was it 180 days? I think it was, or 80, I don't know.
80.
Whatever the book
Just 80.
was. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
80. Not
Or
100.
the movie
Yeah.
the movie Up. The movie Up.
The movie
And
Up.
hot air
Yeah.
balloon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ish, yes, their
Good
version. Yeah,
point.
okay.
Yeah, there's no
eccentric.
like point in Point Break where they're like, let's get out of here, and they hop in the hot air balloon and take off. Like it's definitely doesn't have that sort of like cultural heat as like a badass
fair.
mode of transportation.
Definitely not. Definitely
It's
not.
basically the closest, if you think about it, it's the closest thing in the real world to a dragon.
Oh. I mean, you're not. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think maybe the biggest flaw, and I will not pretend to be an engineer here, so let's put aside whether this is going to make the air balloon crash out of the sky, but I think the biggest flaw is the basket. Like you've got fire, you've got like flying, you've got a thing that you could basically design into anything, like on the canvas of the balloon. But like riding around in a little basket makes me feel like Toto. Like I don't.
Okay, there's two problems. I would add another one to that too, which is the badassness is being reduced by the choices people make with the balloon itself. Like when it's like a strawberry shaped balloon, you can't look badass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like
No.
there's just like if you made it like look like a tactical like parachute or something, and it like had some like cool like camo on the side of it or something. People are like, oh man, what's that thing? But we don't do that. Generally speaking, it's more like oh look, it's a cute rainbow or like a big smiley face or something like that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're attached to like a picnic basket, basically. And okay, from what I know is what's interesting too is I think maybe part of the reason that nobody thinks of it in that way is you're not really in control, right? Like there is sort of a guide guiding you in this hot air balloon driver, shall we? And but it's interesting because if I think about skydiving, most people will skydive tandem, and like we don't same thing. Like we're not like, oh, that's not cool because you didn't do it all by yourself. So I think maybe we need to like find these hot air balloon drivers and see what they're all about. See if we can put those people on like a bit of a pedestal to help kind of raise the profile of a hot air balloon.
Well, the interesting thing about piloting a hot air balloon too is that like,
piloting. There you go.
There is a technique to it. Like, I mean, people have literally gone across oceans on it, right? And the way to do that is this really old timey thing, which is like follow the winds. Like literally, like, do you remember like the trade winds, like how people use those to get places to do trade back in the old timey days? Like it's literally like, how do you follow the winds to go across the Pacific? How do you follow the winds to go places? So it's like there is a navigational component we could lean into.
That's really cool. But there's also like, so you said at the beginning, you kind of don't know where you're going. So does the pilot know where you're landing? Or is there still some sort of like,
you have a tracker on the ground
landing place?
So like,
when I take off in Napa, do I know where exactly I'm going to land?
Give or take. Like I had a friend whose job was a tracker for hot air balloons. And he literally, he would like, they would take off and then he would be in his car and he'd have to be like, oh shit, they're like going in, and like he'd like drive down there and he'd be like, oh, there. And like, sometimes they just like crash into a cornfield and drag and rip up a bunch of corn. Like, it's still a little like, we don't know exactly where this is going.
That's kind of cool.
That's cool. Totally.
I think that's really cool because then it's like kind of choose your own adventure. Like, did you take off in Napa and then the next wherever winery you land, the closest winery, I know they're in the morning, you go to the closest winery. Yeah. Or you like the 100%. Adventure off the back of it is based off of where you land. Like the spontaneous part of this, you could play up.
I love that so much because I think we're like, first of all, we like, if I'm already starting to plan this out, I'm like, we need to take sort of the overall hot air balloon industry and put it on par with skydiving. There's so many ways that we can do that. We can make the pilots cool. We can just make the danger association more interesting. Then there's like the experience itself and how you sell that. And actually, if the hot air balloon ride itself is just the beginning of an adventure where you get dropped into the middle of nowhere and then it's like, good luck, like here's your treasure map. Like when you were talking about the trade winds, Simon, I was like, oh my god, they're sky pirates. That's what what this should be. Like they should be complete. This is like total adventure, sky pirates. Like you need a map when you land. Here's a compass. Like there is treasure out there. I'm like, I am so in on hot air balloons. It's not even funny.
I love
Let's wrap this up so I can go find one. And like, who doesn't want to be a sky pirate? That's cool.
Well,
what a cool career path.
One way I think you could make the pilots more interesting, and I don't know anything about hot air balloon culture. So people, like, if you're a hot air balloonist, call me out if I'm incorrect. But we talked about sport, and part of me goes like, could you make like what you're describing, Jesse? Like, bad example is like orienteering is basically you get dropped off in the middle of a forest, and then it's like figure out how to find these flags and then get the hell out of the forest, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like part of me is like, is there a sport you could make out of hot air balloons that is like everyone takes off, everyone flies to a certain place, everyone's got to get to a certain place. If you don't fly all the way there, then you got to get out of the thing and find a way to get there. Or, I don't know, but like it does feel like there's there's competitive edge to hot air balloons I don't think people are thinking about.
I wonder if like I think orienteering mixed in with a little bit of like a cooler version of geocaching. I don't know if you're familiar with geocaching, but just for anyone who's not, it's like I feel like it started almost in like hiking communities, but it's literally all over the world. People have hidden these little things in random, like almost little capsules. Some of them have little trinkets in them. And the idea is like you take one, you leave one, but most of them just have a log that you can like sign. I was here, here's where I'm from.
Yeah.
But you literally just find them by coordinates. And so you're like hiking through the woods. I used to do this in high school, and you're just like using a compass and you're trying to find the coordinates and then find the little cache wherever it's hidden, and you keep it there. But I think if you start this as a reality show, it could become a sport. I don't know. I don't know if you can start it as a sport first.
That's cool.
But I wonder if this idea, like sort of Survivor meets orienteering meets like treasure hunt. I feel like, I mean, whatever, give away $1 million and suddenly people are into it. But I feel like and then maybe like a real sport is born off of it.
I love that. Turn this into like a Nat Geo expedition. Nat Geo
reality TV.
Reality TV. Reality TV, and then a Nat Geo expedition. Yeah. Nat Geo does these incredible trips. I had dinner with a friend recently who went on one, and she saw like penguins, giraffes, it was just incredible. And I'm like, sign me up. And if you could turn this into a Nat Geo expedition, that'd be...
Well, that's interesting
cool. I didn't
too.
know they did that.
Yeah. I don't know much about it, but...
To your point about that, like especially with hot air balloons, is like I imagine once you get to a certain elevation, you probably can see some pretty cool stuff, especially if you're like somewhere where there's like a lot of animals migrating or something like that too.
Yeah.
Like that could be a pretty incredible way to experience the world. Again, it sounds like there's some real dangers. Like you don't want to land in the middle of a lion's den, but
what if hot air balloons get positioned as an antidote to like AI culture, because it is sort of the analog. It's the analog drone. Like, because I was thinking about like when you were talking about seeing animals, I was thinking like, oh yeah, like for example, if you go on a safari and you see a herd, it's one thing to see a herd eye level. It's another thing to be able to see it over top, to
That's
see
cool.
the magnitude.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, that's why
I
we
see
have.
what you're saying now.
And then I'm like, that's why we have drones. And then I was thinking, fuck drones. This is like, that doesn't give people the perspective. That just gets them to watch the video of the perspective. This is like the human analog drone where you get to participate in it. And like, you could make that
really
a whole
cool.
sort of anti-AI point of view. Again, sign me up. Hot air balloons.
That's really cool. Because that also
in.
sort of like, there's a lot of really interesting things that you're combining there. Obviously, the backlash towards tech, but the love of drone videos combined with people's kind of desire for in real life experiences right now.
Yeah.
And you're giving people this like in real life experience of that like drone thing. Like if you could imagine, like, again, like, I mean, we went straight to sports and making it badass, but like, let's put the dangers of landing and all that stuff aside for a second. Not because we want to ignore it, but just think about it. It's like, if you could tell me that like you could craft me a hot air balloon trip down the Yosemite Valley, that'd be incredible. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
Like that would be like unbelievable. And like, there's a lot you can do when you just start thinking about like to be in that person and float on those winds and see that sort of thing. That's very romantic to me in a way.
Yeah.
I think it also sort of solves for, and I feel like people would rather take pictures of hot air balloons than actually be on a hot air balloon.
Agreed.
Because it feels like, what do you do once you're on the balloon? Like, you're just kind of passing time. And so if you give someone something to do on the balloon and it feels like you're part of this bigger adventure, there's things to look for, and you're like creating this like treasure map of the sky, whatever, it feels like there's a reason to actually get on it and not just look at it.
Totally.
It's like,
you know,
the world's biggest game of I Spy from like, there's so many. And actually, Simon, what you like, your build on what I was saying is it already like builds a campaign almost in my head, or maybe like a media opportunity. But I'm like, so many people watch drone videos, and so even if you just interrupted that and was like, why don't you go see it for yourself? And you're promoting hot air balloons through that, because it is like the opportunity to see things from that perspective. We don't get that, and I think many of us just assume we can't, which is why we like the drone videos. But you can.
Maybe we can do this. We don't need a reality TV show. We can do like a Twitch, YouTube live stream. I think people would watch this.
Yeah.
We just need a ballooner.
All right,
or a
all right.
pilot. A polite.
I don't think I would get. I don't think I right now,
ballooning.
after like
We
knowing
need
what
the
I
right
know, I don't think
language.
I don't think I'd get in a hot air balloon. I think it is actually a lot scarier. I did. I think, Jesse, you know this. Maria, I don't know if you know this, but like one year for my birthday, my wife got me pilot lessons to like fly a plane, and so I was like, oh, awesome, thank you so much. I was so excited, and then I went in it, and I was like, this is terrifying. Like, I am in like a tin can, and it's like, I control it. I don't want to control this. I'm going to die. So like that wasn't even like, that was like encased in steel. The idea of like being in a bread basket that's like 1,000 feet up in the air is like terrifying to me. And it doesn't get the credit for that.
No. But okay, can I ask, is it dangerous? Is that a misconception?
There are injuries every year and casualties every year among like thousands and thousands and thousands. There's like one or two people who die, definitely. But like it's not known as a dangerous sport. Like the perception isn't it's too dangerous to ever go mainstream, because like skydiving exists, bungee jumping exists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah,
I think
it's almost living in between neither. Like like the adrenaline junkies aren't choosing it because it doesn't seem thrilling, and on the other side, it's just like a little too scary for like a non-adrenaline junkie to be like, yeah, put me up in that flying bread basket.
Yeah. To me, like, Jesse, I think you're touching on the crux of like what I saw as the interesting tension to this, which is like, I've flown a plane for about 30 seconds and I was terrified the entire time. And I've gone whale watching, and both are very different experiences. But hot air balloon, in my perception, in my mind, is somewhere in between, and I don't know where to put it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not comfortable enough that I'm going to bring my kids to it and go, let's go in a hot air balloon. But it's also not like badass enough that like I'm going to get the I don't perceive that I'm going to get the thrill out of it that I'd get from some other things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's
there's
in
a
a weird
world
space.
where I think then we're sort of pushing it towards the other end of the spectrum, like closer to skydiving. What if we took it to the other? What if we brought it the other way? What if how do we package this as like the ultimate form of like intentional slowness? Like the world's slowest adventure, maybe.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, this is this is very interesting because where am I, like, to your point, Maria, I love that. How do we give it both options? Like, for example, like there is commercial flight and then there is also like badass stunt flying, and no one mixes one up with the other, even though they're both using planes. Like, is there a world where you'd have like extreme ballooning and then like kind of like fun ballooning or something like that? Or is that going to just like confuse people too much?
I feel like well, and also I think we're playing chess here, because I would say there's like a third dimension that we gave it in my mind, because there's like, make it feel like an extreme sport like skydiving, make it intentional travel, and then the third option to me, because it's neither of those other two, is this idea of turning it into like adventure. I think like that adventure component is not, to me, the same as extreme sport. Like if you actually made it sort of like a pioneering, like finding, searching adventure, I think there is like that, like kind of, when I think about like backpacking, for example, you can have backpacking be like, oh my God, I'm climbing to the top of Everest, and that's more extreme, but there is sort of like a more adventure side to it. So I actually think there's like three realms that it could possibly live in.
I love that.
I think that's interesting. I think that's really interesting. And I think that feels like almost a bigger opportunity than extreme adventure, because then it feels like something that you continuously do, or you can do more than once. Like if you started to make like a passport book for all of the like famous balloon destinations that you've now visited, almost like, akin to like a airline status. I don't know what the balloon companies are to begin with. I don't know who who is the Delta of the ballooning world. I have no idea. But if there's a way that you could start to, get credit for all of the balloon destinations you've taken part in.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Actually, like a tiered status program for like balloon, like treating it more like travel is an interesting approach. Like almost adventure based. Like actually, the way I think this is
it's sky off-roading.
Emerging. Yeah, and like how like there are cruises that are like, here's your like Princess Disney cruise, whatever. But then there are those actually like more adventure style cruises. They take you down, like you're going down, the rivers in Germany or wherever you're going. Like I think about like treating it like a travel brand, but one that is more tuned into adventure, and like, but sort of an organized adventure, and then being able to get what you said, Maria, status for how many you do, or for, I don't know, for something.
Yeah. Right.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it might make it more niche than just broadly, like that might make it more, it might actually make it more niche than treating it almost just like as general adventure, but I'm not sure.
But to your point, I think what you're talking about is you're almost talking about it as a tourism, not brand, but as a tourism outlet. Like it's like, look, you can do backpacking. That's a form of, let's call it tourism or travel. You can do cruise lines, which dabble in this world as well. You can do, like, God knows there's like overlanding and off-roading and stuff like that. And then we're going to add ballooning to that. And ballooning is now going to be kind of part of this adventure lifestyle. And part of it means like, if you want to adventure on the sky, you're going to do it through ballooning. Why? Because when you're doing it in a plane, you're not actually outside. You're not actually experiencing the air. You're not actually experiencing the area. You're just flying past it. So
and
ballooning
you can't see anything.
You can't see anything. So ballooning is like literally like sky adventure. You know what I mean?
Wow, sky adventure. I love it.
I love that.
That's
I
so
love it.
good. How long can how long can a hot air balloon travel, or how far in like one ride?
Well, like, I mean, like I said, it depends on like the kind of balloon you're talking about, because literally like one balloon went around the world in 20 days. So like something like a really extreme, like they started getting like really technical with them, but like typically like an average balloon ride lasts like a few hours.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is funny, the like, if I'm up there for a few hours and we're flying over like interesting herds of animals like that. Then one of the things you said, Maria, I do think is interesting, which is like once you're up there, you're like, cool. Like, what am I supposed to do up here for 3 hours? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I have a hard
but
time.
I feel like
Yeah.
I would need an activity. I mean, I guess that's why people started bringing champagne bottles and picnics. But
Yeah.
I like the idea of, if it's sky adventure, I think tying it to, I mean, like gamifying it almost, like I think about,
Yeah.
I know I was joking about like I Spy, but like being able, like, that's what I like about the adventure component, is like making it almost like you're in hunt, in search of something.
Yeah.
Well,
I
like,
think
let me give
would
you an
sort of make
example
it
of that.
interesting.
Like, because there's a lot of things you could do in a balloon. It's crazy. Every time I talk about it, there's like still a little bit of me that's like, what am I talking about here? But
It's
like,
so
if
good.
you said on, like sometimes when you see like a adventure pamphlet for like a guided hike, it'll be like, we're going to climb this mountain, we're going to stop at this river, we're going to go fishing, and then we're going to like spend a night here, and then you're going to get her. But like, if you said something that it's like, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get to 3,000 feet. I don't know if they can go that high or not, but we're going to get to 3,000 feet. And then after we get to 3,000 feet, then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fly over this body of water. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pass by this interesting, like you kind of like build almost.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can,
An
or can't, but
itinerary.
to your point, if you have an itinerary that you're selling, rather than just simply like, so we're gonna like get up there and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Enjoy
then
the
it says-
view.
yeah, exactly. Then I think you're gonna be like, oh, I see the purpose of this a lot more. I see what I'm gonna get. I see the value out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's your treasure map in the sky, Jesse. Your pirate reference.
That's all I want, guys.
There it is.
Do you think you could race them?
Oh, what's the
That'd be cool.
What's that competition called? It's so cool, though, the sailboat racing one. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. The
America's
it's in
Cup?
America's
America's?
Cup.
No.
It's insane.
Is it? Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
cool. I don't know why the minute you said, "Can you race them?" I imagined like that, but in the sky.
Yeah.
Which is like super cool.
No, totally.
love that.
Like
That would be.
I honestly
I
think
think-
like a big. Go ahead, Jesse. Sorry.
Oh, well, I was gonna take us in a slightly different direction. So if you have something on this, keep going.
Well, to your point, I think one of the things that America's Cup is actually a really, really, really great parallel, which is like, there are some people that if you close your eyes and you imagine a sailboat, you imagine like this cute little dinghy with this like little thing. And it's like, oh, like kind of coasting around a lake, and it's very sort of subdued. But then when you see the America's Cup boats, you're like, Jesus, these are like rocket ships powered by the wind, all made out of like carbon fiber. There's water splashing everywhere. When they show the
You're
videos of those dudes on
leaning,
thing, you're
like-
like, oh my God, this is insane. And like
Yeah.
to that point, like I think just like a makeover of what the balloons look like would like help, like even just a cosmetic makeover. Like to your point, like I bet it's evolved since then, but I still imagine they are like wicker baskets that people stand in. But like, how do you make the basket look cool? How do you make the basket look badass? How do you make sort of like all the things, the doodads involved with adding fire and all that stuff look cool? How do you make the balloon itself look like, whoa, what's that thing doing? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there are ways where right away, cosmetically, if you just did that, people would reframe it.
And if there's like an identifiable like fleet of balloons, like if you see this, not
like the Blue Angels of hot air balloons,
right? Like there's the Blue Angel, you know, like there's the whatever balloon versus there's the strawberry in the sky. It's something you look for it. It's something you want to feel a little bit more aspirational.
Oh my God. I love anything. Anytime I see anything in a fleet, to be honest, I cry. I've never not cried at the Blue Angels. Like if there was, like why don't we have a fleet of hot air balloons fly over like a baseball game?
Yeah.
Like I think that's the other thing we need to do here is like integrate hot air balloons a little bit more into culture in that way. Like, because where I was gonna go before, and like this is one example of that, but like also entertainment. Like we were talking about cultural references before.
Yeah.
And I do think a lot of them are like, I think Golden Compass is another one, like pretty old book. I think, around the world, I think Wizard of Oz is pretty old, but like, and it's what if you integrate it into a movie or like IP for talking about decorating the balloon itself? Like if you start using IP, like if you have a Minions balloon up there or like whatever, I think making hot air balloons part of like a entertainment press tour. Like I'm just like thinking of all the ways that it could sort of start to elevate the profile of it.
Well, could I give you another one too? The more I think about this, and I don't know where in that conversation this came from, which is like every sport has a personality that helped propel that sport, right? Like every sport, like if you look at like even like Evel Knievel, like that's the most extreme example. But then like with snowboarding, America had Shaun White. Like there was always like this person that was like, look at the crazy, like Red Bull is like the best at this sort of thing, which is like, for all intents and purposes, that guy who fell from the sky, he went up there in an air balloon, basically. You know what I mean? And then like he fell down, landed, and all that incredible stuff. He took an air balloon to space, and you think, no one talks about the air balloon. They just talk about the fall. And so it's like this thing of like, how do you build a character, or how do you get brands involved to show the incredible potential of like, look at these badasses doing badass things with hot air balloons.
Dude, we need to find the Evel Knievel of hot air ballooning. I'm willing to put myself forward as an option.
That'd be cool. There you go.
I think I'm ready. I think this is I'm ready to go in that direction. But it's totally. Like I feel like we've spent almost all this time just ideating, and I never knew that there were this many possibilities here for air balloon. Like what's the hot air balloon industry doing? Is it an industry? Is it an industry, or is it just like some dudes with a hobby who like own a hot air balloon in their backyard and they're like, yeah, I charge $20 a ride. Like I'm not really sure.
So I'm so curious, like who's like the leading like who's like the big like air balloon company? Like who are I don't know.
I like looked up some manufacturers, but to your point, like there's nothing like particularly exciting about any of them. Do you know what I mean? Like it is literally like. I think we're touching on something interesting, which is like this feels like an like in the I'm going way, way, way back, but bear with me. But like in the late 1700s and the early 1800s, this was considered badass. Like this was like, holy crap! Did you see that? Dude? And there was all these competitions to see how high up you could get, like how far you could travel. Like it was literally like the Wild West. Like, oh my God, do you see these crazy people going up into the sky in a basket? Whereas now we're like, oh, that seems kind of lame, going up in the sky in a basket. It's not. It's terrifying. And like it's like it's just funny to me that like people it's almost become like cosplay or something. Like it's like it's not seen for what it actually is. It's more seen as like, oh, like cute. I know I'm sort of banging the drum on a very like masculine sort of a like badass edge to it, and I don't mean to, but I just could see like Red Bull sponsoring a balloon and being like, here's this crazy balloon doing crazy stuff.
Totally. I'm with you. I don't think that the push to adventure even has to be necessarily a masculine vibe. I think that there's like there's the I think that I really like, I don't know. I think there's so many things that we've talked about that I'm like, yeah, I would buy that. I would buy the human drone angle. I'd buy the adventure angle. I'd buy the Red Bull angle. I'd buy the tourism angle. Like I feel like almost don't know which direction is the right direction because they all feel really interesting to me. And the fleet.
Maria, would you go in a hot air balloon?
Yeah. I still don't know if I would. I think also another thing is it would have to almost be coupled with like a bigger experience for me. I don't know if I would seek out a hot air balloon ride. If I was somewhere and it was an option, maybe. And like I really got peer pressured into going onto a hot air balloon. Like really, like if I was with Jesse and Jesse was like, we're getting on that balloon, I would go. But that's where I think maybe I don't think I'd have a choice. I think we have to make it maybe a little bit more accessible. Like, could we package, like, how do you make it feel like it's part of a bigger experience? Does Airbnb have a role in this? And then do you start to package ballooning experiences that are, either tied to a certain location, tied to a certain moment in someone's life, like the big question flight, I don't know, the new chapter, you just quit your job flight, whatever it may be. But it just doesn't feel like, that's why I keep asking, like, who's the face of big ballooning? I have no idea. Because I don't even know how I would go find, I just go online.
You bring up,
in the absence of that.
You bring up a very good tension about this, which is, what's the point? Like, I don't know where to put this in my head as to when I'm looking for this or when I'm seeking this, hot air balloon is the answer to it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
Maybe it's the, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that's also why originally when I'm like, and now you've totally gotten me off of attaching it to jumping out of an airplane. So I'm like, yeah, no, it's not like jumping out of an airplane. But I think that jumping out of an airplane, you attach it to like a big life milestone, a moment. You've just turned 30, 40, whatever, and now you feel compelled to jump out of a plane. There's no moment, maybe outside of getting engaged, you feel compelled to get in to a basket attached to a flaming balloon. Like, do we need to attach this to certain moments and stuff?
Well, where I was going to suggest this be the new midlife crisis. Like the millennial midlife crisis should be, like basically the center of millennials basically hitting 40. So maybe hot air balloon is like now at its moment to position hot air balloons as the millennial midlife crisis.
The 40 flight. It's the 40 flight. The 40 flight. Oh
my God.
Yes.
The way you described that was just beautiful. Like, just like,
it was.
I will never feel compelled to get into a basket.
No, I don't.
Fly in the sky.
I never have. But
my biggest problem now is that this conversation has set my expectation like through the roof on how fun a hot air balloon ride could be. And that's maybe the only flaw in this conversation is none of us actually know. Well, to be clear, the only flaw in this conversation, because there are none,
is
no
our
others.
Complete lack of experience and understanding of this topic.
Because I actually don't know, can it live up to the, I don't know what it can live up to. I don't know what the experience itself, how far on that scale of slow intentional travel to extreme adventure travel. I actually don't know where the experience itself lives.
Can I give you guys a parallel from my life that I think I was probably the right age for this and you were all probably too young for this, which is there was this moment, there was roller skates. Then roller blades came out and everyone was like, these are nothing like roller skates. These are badass and cool and different. And like, they're roller skates just in a different sequence of wheels. Like, that's all it is. Yeah. And like, to me, I start to go like, I wonder if it's just as simple as that. Like, we talk so much about the cosmetic and the do you just redesign this on a scale and a level where someone comes out with a new product where they go, no, I don't build hot air balloons. I build, adventure floating. And adventure floating, that's not hot air balloons. This is adventure floats. Check out my adventure float. And it looks like a different thing. And the basket is different. And people are like, yo, bro, do you adventure float, dog? Like, you know what I mean? I honestly wonder if like that solves it. You know what I mean?
You could.
Hey, dog, do you adventure float?
Yeah, exactly.
Totally, bro. Do you?
Yeah, duh. Yeah, man. Yo, you fuck with adventure floating, dog?
Yeah. Okay, all right. This is how we solve the male loneliness epidemic.
Oh my god.
Adventure floating. Find your friends.
But that was rollerblading sort of like
totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that is
for a long time, roller skates had been associated with not Jane Fonda, but that other bombshell, the blonde bombshell. It was like high socks, rainbow high socks. And it was kind of like that. It was a bit corny, right? And then rollerblades really changed the perception of making it seem kind of like fast and cool and edgy. And it's like I don't think that solves everything. And I think the problem is it would require a significant investment to like kick off the new shape of adventure floating. But like, if you created adventure floating, I do think that could work.
Yeah. I love it. I love well, first of all, calling it blading was pretty smart.
Pretty badass. Yeah.
That's
exactly.
pretty cool.
Yo,
so I am thinking we'll have to workshop the floating part.
No.
Of
floating's
adventure
way
blank.
too lame. Yeah.
So I was I was pausing because I was trying to quickly come up with an alternative, but I didn't get there.
Sky sailing.
Like that's adventure soaring. I don't know. We'll workshop it. We'll workshop
wind
it.
blading.
Wind blading. Yeah. Like, well, I mean, I do like, there is not to like repeat something we've talked about, but there is like there is something very interesting. Like when you were talking about like wind trading and like we're talking about sky adventures and we're talking about seeing the world from above, like there are so many interesting historical and present sort of like associations and opportunities with this that just like none of it is utilized.
No.
It's just like, it's so, and maybe it's like to your whole point, Maria, maybe the problem is just there's nobody motivating this, but I would argue that's your whole opportunity, Simon, is we're like, we could build an entire industry here around like adventure floating. And if no one's doing it, I think significant should get into this.
Okay, let me ask you both this, which is like, I'll start with Maria. Maria, when you close your eyes and you think of a hot air balloon enthusiast, what type of person do you imagine?
I picture someone who, you have to wake up early, open to waking up early. I think that you meditate. I think that you travel a good amount. You probably go to Napa. So to me, less on the adventurous end. In their maybe for like in 50s. I think they're in their 50s. So I'm picturing, I think that the adventure sailing we're talking about opens up an entirely new demographic. I love that. I love it. I think the audience I envision is more of a sky sailor. You know,
I agree.
A bit more tempered. I don't know.
What about you, Jesse? What do you see?
Myself with an eye patch. Just sky pirating. No, I'm with you. I I do. I like the picture in my head is truly that like influencer picture you see all the time of the girl with like the flowy dress with the photograph taken from behind her, and she's not even in the balloon, but now that is like my like visual attachment to a human associated with air balloon is just like influencer sort of like shallow aesthetic doing whatever. So yeah,
I imagine
I
for
think
some reason
massive.
for some reason I imagine sort of like an older eccentric. You know what I mean? Like not like not a person who's like particularly adventurous, but is like kind of like a fuddy-duddy about specific hobbies sort of thing. Like that's kind of what I imagine it as. So again, like I think like it's you don't hear that word a lot, do you?
Fuddy-duddy's a good one. That's good.
I do think there is a big overlap between ballooning culture and fuddy-duddy culture. Like just for
totally,
the record.
totally. And we're like, I mean, I also have always associated balloon culture with more, well, I know I used the word eccentric earlier, which is, to be clear, different space than the fuddy-duddy space. Not all fuddy-duddies are eccentric and vice versa, but
there's an overlap.
But there's a little overlap. But I this is so absurd. But I do feel like because of that eccentric association, it has also really like in my mind attached more to like carnival, like kind of carnival culture, not circus necessarily, but a little bit more just like it's like an attraction. It's sort of just like a weird thing to do, not something. And I think you nailed it, Marie. Or I think both of you talked about this. Like you need to create the mental structure and the mental space for like, when do I seek this out? Like, is this just something I happen upon? Is this just like an attraction at a carnival? Or is this like something that I intentionally seek out, and why? And I think that is like, there's so many, you know, this is like full brand redesign. It needs a strategy. It needs a Viz ID overhaul. It needs like a face of it. We need our Evil Knievel. Like, but I think it's all possible, which is the crazy part of this whole, whole thing.
It's like, it is like, I mean, like I could see a world where it's whitewater rafting. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like whitewater rafting is something you do when you go to certain rivers and you go like, oh, let's try that. And it's kind of like low stakes thrill where like, you know, like a 70-year-old can go whitewater rafting, and you provided it's not like, you know, for experts or anything, they can still get a thrill out of it. It's an adventure and all of that sort of thing. But you still get that, like, I went whitewater rafting credibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They don't call it water floating.
No, exactly. I mean, how bad is the brand of like, and it's the reason we started laughing. Is like the brand of hot air balloons is getting in the way of the potential of hot air balloons.
So much potential.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to your point, Jesse, I think that part of the problem right now is that the perception and the conversation around hot air balloons is mostly driven by the people on the ground taking pictures in front of them when they're in the sky, not the people in the sky. You know what I mean? And it's like, as a result, it's kind of seen as kind of this like icon of like a lovely Sunday afternoon at the fair. You know what I mean?
It's an object to look at, not a thing to experience.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Stop objectifying hot air balloons. That's the campaign.
Well, we got 7 minutes left. Is there any last places we want to go in the last few minutes that we want to kind of explore here?
I think that tourism brands have a really like big role to play in this, because so much of it, we keep talking about like the experience in the sky. So much of it is like the experience once you land, because again, you don't know where you're going to land, and you can see so much of, you know, a new part of a country, a new part of an area, like just because of where you've landed. You just, you know, like you landed in a small town and the local guide meets you and takes you to breakfast, whatever it may be. I think you could just experience a place in a way which you would have never if you were just following a very like prescribed, you know, itinerary.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. I like that. Sorry,
you go.
did I
You
interrupt
go.
you? Oh,
No,
I
you
like.
go.
I know that we talked about the tourism thing and we talked about the landing thing, but I don't think we had talked about the connection of those two. So I think it's interesting, the idea of like the adventure continues when you land, but that adventure doesn't have to be a choose your own adventure. It can be sort of like
Right.
a tourism, like this is where a tourism experience now begins.
Totally.
And you're taken to like lunch in the middle. And there's some ambiguity to it. It's like, well, the hike to lunch could be anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours, depending on where this thing lands. Like, we have no idea. I would love
Don't
that. I'd
know.
be like, yes, sign me
That's
up for that.
cool.
That's my kind of ambiguity.
Yeah. So I think like a tourism company or like Nat Geo has like a really big role here.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I like
I
that.
mean, there's an interesting sort of like cultural tension there too, of like a time, especially when everyone wants to be so hyper organized and know exactly what they're doing at all times. That idea of offering up something that's like, yeah, I don't know. You literally have to throw caution to the wind. Like literally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it is
Literally.
that. It is like, we'll see where the winds place us and then we'll go from there, sort of thing, which feels kind of like a really interesting starting point.
Okay, Simon, who do you think is the celebrity face of the future of hot air ballooning?
So, that's a good question. I mean, Richard Branson tried to be, right?
Yeah, but now he's not relevant. Sorry, Richard.
I don't know if he's listening, Jesse.
See, okay, let me give you like a way I could see it actually working quite well that could build credibility and strength is if you had an athlete from another sport kind of spearhead and go, now this is my new passion and it's badass. Do you know what I mean? So that could be anyone from, like we talked about, Shaun White to Michael Phelps, like someone who's just literally like, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to bring like, to be clear, I'm not hot air ballooning. I'm adventure floating dog. And then I am going to show you like all the crazy stuff we can do with this and kind of like spearhead it that way. Because I think if you could leverage a built-in credibility of someone who is considered like awesome at something that is like inscrutably tough to do, they did, and it could be male or it could be woman or man. It doesn't need to be a dude.
Yeah.
But if you could do it that way, I think that gets interesting in how you really start to reposition it.
Maybe this is Ronaldo's retirement plan. I don't know. I don't know
if that makes me want a hot air balloon, but I mean, adventure float dog.
Come on.
Exactly.
Go Portugal.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go.
I can get behind it. I can get behind that. I know. I was trying to think of
what about you?
I don't know. My first thought I had was like Trinity Rodman. I was thinking about Alana Marr, of course. I was like trying to think of like some cool energy, but also a little bit of like that badass energy. And I also went straight to athlete. I think that could be really more so than like an actor or actress.
Well, I think because then you can build sort of the craft of piloting narrative. I think would be valuable. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't just a dude going like, oh, we're starting to go lower, make it hotter. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, like this person who's like, oh, I'm navigating. I got this GPS system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, this is like a crazy activity. This sounds awesome. You know what I mean?
Actually, that made me think of like a gamer, a streamer. It is almost like that. There's like an interesting parallel there. Or whoever aren't the Jackass guys finally retiring? Isn't that what the latest movie is? It's like finally.
But everyone would just be waiting for them to crash.
And so, no, I was trying to think whoever's going to be the next gen version of whoever's going to replace our beloved Jackass crew in this gaping hole in our lives. They will leave.
Man.
Anyway, wrap us up, Simon. What a incredible topic.
Maria, anything less to say in the last minute and a half before I start wrapping us up?
This is one of my favorite topics. Like, you nailed it, Simon.
This is fun.
One of the best of the year. Bravo to you. Really
So
good. And I might consider I might consider going
wow.
ballooning. And I'm going to figure out what we call it
awesome.
afterwards, but I might consider going ballooning. I might.
Wow.
Awesome.
Cool
Okay,
arc.
wrapping it up. I think at the start, lots of laughs and skepticism quickly gave way to the fact that, like, wait, is it a sport? And then we started getting a very serious conversation about comparing it to jumping out of a plane and how you don't get the credit for the badassness that you do, despite it being pretty insane thing to do. So we started going into how could you make the pilots cool? How could you make the thrill more interesting? How could you rebrand the quirks of it? You don't know where you're landing and you're getting dropped off in the middle more. How do you rebrand that as adventure as opposed to kind of difficulty? We talked about sky pirates and things like that. Orienteering meets geocaching. Could we make it a sport through reality show? And then we got into this really interesting conversation about hot air balloons as the analog drone for a world where people want to experience more things. We can give you the experience of being a drone, essentially, in a really cool way. And then we started to talk about this, like the way I formed it is like there's this interesting triangle where it was like there was like adventure, extreme sport, and leisure. And we needed to find the right point where we wanted to position hot air balloons. We talked about sky off-roading, sky adventure, literally the Blue Angels of hot air balloons, the Evil Knievel of hot air balloons. And then we talked about adventure floating, which is essentially this idea of like, how do you do the rollerblade bait and switch, which is there was this thing that had a big stigma. And then all they did was basically change the wheels around and said, it's not that, it's this. And it brought mass reconsideration of rolling around on wheels attached to your feet. Then we got into tourism brands and the experience and just this idea of like, how could you frame it that way? And then lastly, a conversation around who would be the people to lead the charge on this next wave of hot air balloon popularity. So I'll ask the question, Maria, did we crack it?
Right. I want to say yes. I think we got there. Yeah, I think we got there. We cracked it. We cracked it. Yes.
I love
we
that.
cracked it. Yeah.
Jesse, did we crack it?
I think we spent 58 minutes doing nothing but cracking it.
Oh,
It was
yes.
just
All right.
just
Done.
one idea after another. Spoil of riches. I mean, my God, like, let's go. So good.
I agree. Like I could put together like 3 pitch decks right now based off this conversation.
Yeah, fair.
Like I could put together one that's like, here's how we're gonna rebrand hot air balloons for a new generation. Here's how we're gonna rebrand it for it as a tourism kind of like cultural touchstone. Here's how we're gonna do one, and we're gonna make it a sport. Like I could see there's so much potential with hot air balloons. Again, knowing what we know, which is not a lot. So like there's probably logistics to it and reasons we can't do it. But I agree. 3 for 3. We cracked
it.
making hot air balloons more popular. I'm very excited. Awesome.
Oh man.
Any last words or are we all good?
All good. Let's
great.
go.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Crack It in an Hour. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Crack It in an Hour. If you like the show, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you have questions, thoughts, or feedback, shoot us an email at hello@crackitpodcast.com or on Instagram @crackitpodcast. Music done by Michael Anastasi, cover art shot by Mick Mint, and all things audio and video taken care of by Nathan Nash. See you next time.